Finally, the day of the wedding arrived. Pugsley and I were given a pass from Camp Chippewa so we could attend. I asked my new friend Joel to come along too. The ceremony was held out back in our family cemetery, where Lurch played the organ and the guests sat on tombstones. Cousin It was the minister, and he had prepared a lovely ceremony. But Debbie seemed to be in a rush to get the wedding vows over with. Finally, Uncle Fester and Debbie both said, "I do." Suddenly, lightning flashed, thunder rumbled, and the earth shook. Then, Granny burped baby Pubert, and everything quieted down again. In front of the house, Uncle Fester's car had the usual wedding decorations tied to the bumper. Tin cans, streamers, and something that might have been a body. Father waved to the two newlyweds as they drove away, saying, "You're going to have a wonderful life together." Debbie waved back. She was smiling a funny kind of smile. Uncle Fester was hoping for a romantic honeymoon in Death Valley. Debbie made them go to Hawaii instead. Yuck. Then she forced Uncle Fester to do the one thing he hated most, take a bath. While he was in the tub, she actually tried to electrocute him by dropping a boombox into the water. Naturally, that only made Uncle Fester love her more. I was back at Camp Chippewa when I received some shocking news. It was a note from Uncle Fester saying, "Dear Wednesday, I love you dearly, but I can never see you again." Of course, it was Debbie's doing. She'd made Uncle Fester promise to never see any of his beloved family ever again. She also started spending Uncle Fester's money to buy a shiny new limousine, a big new house, and horrid new furniture. Finally, she made poor Uncle Fester dress up in a trendy silk suit and wear a ridiculous toupee on his head. He was baffled. He was miserable. He was in love, and trapped like a rat. One afternoon, Debbie lured Uncle Fester into the swimming pool, even though she knew he couldn't swim. He practically drowned, but as you'd expect, that just made him fall more deeply in love. Suddenly, life at Camp Chippewa took a horrifying turn. Camp Director Gary wrote a preposterous Thanksgiving play about the Indians befriending the Pilgrims. As if that weren't bad enough, he forced me to play the part of Pocahontas. When I told Gary what I thought of his play, he threw me and Pugsley and Joel into the Harmony Hut and tried to break our spirits by making us watch Disney cartoons. By the time they let us out again, I had a plan. I told Gary I really wanted to be Perky and sing and dance and be Pocahontas in his wonderful play. And then I did something I never thought I could do. It took all my concentration, but I finally managed it. I actually smiled. Guess what? They bought it. Back at our unhappy home, something very strange had happened to baby Pubert. He had changed. No longer was he the pasty-faced, demonic, flame-breathing creature we all loved and cherished. Overnight, his cheeks had become rosy, his hair turned golden. He even lost his little mustache. Father was stunned. "What's happened to my baby?" he cried. Granny knew. Pubert was possessed. She tried a powerful ancient spell to help him. It called for soil from a grave, fresh zebra blood, and a diet soda. Granny got thirsty. But her spell didn't do any good. "That's funny," she said. "It works on cats." Then she realized what was causing all the trouble. It was because the Addams family wasn't a family without Uncle Fester. We had to bring him back, or be trapped for eternity with the unthinkable, a sweet-faced little baby that gurgles and grins. At the house where Uncle Fester and Debbie lived, Uncle Fester was excited because it was their 3-week anniversary. His present to Debbie was going to be a big fancy dinner that he cooked himself. When Debbie came into the kitchen, she had a present for him too. It was a time bomb, wrapped up to look like a gift. Then, Debbie said she had to go out and get some champagne for their celebration. She had written a list telling him to cook dinner, seal all doors and windows, turn on gas jets, wait for Debbie. As Debbie left, Uncle Fester asked if she was coming right back. She picked up 2 big suitcases on her way out and said, "Of course." Neither one of them noticed there was someone watching all this through the kitchen window. That someone was Thing. Meanwhile, back at camp, we were all getting ready to perform Gary's ghastly play. The audience was filled with eager parents, and Gary and Becky were proudly waiting in the wings. The play began, and I came on stage dressed as Pocahontas. I was supposed to say that the Indians were happy to share their food and land with the Pilgrims. But instead, I told them we knew the Pilgrims had come to steal our Indian land and force us to live in mobile homes on reservations. "The gods of my tribe have spoken," I told them, "and instead of breaking bread with you, we have decided to scalp you and burn your village to the ground." Then Joel and some of the other misfit campers attacked. They whooped war cries and shot flaming arrows that set the theater on fire. Gary and Becky screamed and shouted. The parents in the audience panicked. It was the best play I'd ever seen. Outside of Uncle Fester's house, Debbie was sitting in her car. She wanted to be there when her present to Uncle Fester went off. She checked her watch. Then, right on time, kaboom, the whole house was blown to bits. Right on time, walking out of the smoke, who should appear but Uncle Fester. Even though his face was smudged with soot, he was fine. He asked Debbie if she bought the champagne. Debbie was furious. She pulled out a gun. Uncle Fester asked if this meant that she didn't love him. Debbie laughed for about 10 minutes and then aimed the gun at Uncle Fester. Just as she was about to shoot, a car came speeding down the road and knocked her into the bushes. Thing was driving the car. As he and Uncle Fester drove away, Debbie shouted after them, "I'll get you, and your little hand, too." While sneaking away from Camp Chippewa for the last time, Joel and I shared a final, tender moment together. The flames from the burning theater illuminated the sky, as he said he'd never forget me. "You won't?" I asked. "No," he answered. "You're too weird to forget." By the time Pugsley and I got home, Uncle Fester was there with my mother and father and the rest of the household. The Addams family was complete again. Suddenly, we heard a familiar voice from the doorway. It was Debbie. "In-laws," she said. She didn't sound happy. And she was holding a big machine gun. The next thing we knew, Debbie had tied us each into our very own electric chair in the attic. She was going to fry us all with zillions of volts of electricity. Even worse, before she did it, she was going to make us watch slides of her childhood. Debbie raved and ranted and showed us pictures of herself as a little girl. She explained that her life was shattered when she asked her parents for a ballerina Barbie doll, and they gave her a Malibu Barbie instead. Well, that explained everything. No wonder she became a serial killer who bumped off all her husbands. As Debbie prepared to electrocute us, we all said our goodbyes to each other, and then everyone wished Debbie good luck. After all, it was the polite thing to do. Finally, she threw the switch. What none of us had noticed is that baby Pubert had crawled in among the electrical cords and chewed up the wires. Somehow, this reversed the current, so instead of zapping us, the electricity flowed right back into Debbie. She lit up like the 4th of July. Afterwards, there was nothing left but 2 earrings and some melted credit cards. Nine months later, Pubert was back to his normal, unholy self. We had all gathered together to celebrate his very first birthday. That night, Cousin Ed arrived with his wife, their baby, and their new nanny. You know what? She was totally bald. And as soon as Uncle Fester saw her, he was totally in love. Again. A big cake was brought in, and Reed told Pubert to blow out the candle. He took a big breath and blew. When he did, the whole house exploded with a terrific roar. Now that's what I call an Addams Family birthday surprise.